Do you know how bad my mental health was when I was a teenager? When I was about 17 years old, 17 and younger, I was on social media a lot. We live in a world where mental health is so important, basically more important than it's ever been in all of history. Mental health is so important, but our mental health is the worst that it has ever been in history. I can almost guarantee that, except for like certain areas in times of war, I'm sure, right? Obviously. But our first world mental health issue is seriously a big one. When I was on social media, 16, 17 years old, I was the most depressed that I had ever been in my life. And I couldn't understand why. My grades were good. I wasn't addicted to weird substances. And at the time, I couldn't understand why. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have any really good hobbies. I played video games a lot, to the point where I was kind of obsessed. When I was younger, I played video games so much that I wanted to be a game developer when I was an adult. Looking back on that, I just think the idea is silly. I have no desire to be a game developer. Maybe if you're a game developer out there, that's your calling. It wasn't mine, but I had thought that it was. I had, again, no friends, no hobbies, no meaning or purpose. I didn't really understand the concept of hard work. I only worked hard on school because my parents wanted me to, and when I was younger, I get in a lot of trouble if my grades were bad, so it's like an Asian family, right? But it was bad. And then when you're on social media, when you're on Instagram like I was, it'll show you all these happy people, all these people that seem to have their lives completely put together. They're happy, they're social, it's laughing, it's people that are rich, people that have girlfriends, beautiful girlfriends, all this stuff. That was one of the two types of content that Instagram will serve you up if you're depressed, and it figures that out. Then the algorithm will also give you sad boy content, I guess. It's just no one understands me, and there's this dark image with text over it, sad text over it, they just don't understand, and some weird sad music over it. And it makes you feel good, because you're oh yeah, I am depressed. Here's another depressed person that I'm a part of. I'm part of this group of depressed people. We're so cool. It makes you feel good for half a second, and then you continue on, and your life is still shit, right? Get no friends. You're basically a fucking loser, and you want to I suppose not kill yourself. It's not you're necessarily suicidal. Some guys are, and that's absolutely horrible. But it's more like biologically, you understand, your brain understands, okay, this animal is not serving a purpose. And when an animal does not serve a purpose in the wild, when it grows old or perhaps sick, like a lot of us are, right, or weak, it lays down to die, right? It's just that's, I suspect, where a lot of suicidal tendencies come from. It's a lack of purpose. It's a lack of meaning. It's biological. It's this animal no longer serves a purpose. This animal will die, so it doesn't hold the pack down. So it's not necessarily suicidal ideation. I know this is a very dark turn to this episode, but it's more just floating meaningless through life. You're just automatically depressed because biologically we're wired to be depressed when we're not working hard or serving a purpose, right? No one will tell you that, by the way. They'll tell you that you need therapy and that you have some bogus trauma or some shit like that. Some trauma is legit, but it's you have a mental disorder. You have a mental disorder. Not really. You just need to stop being a fucking loser. No offense. I'm sure you probably agree with this. I hope you do. When we are filled with meaning and we have hard work, then our mental health is better. I didn't realize this when I was younger. So my mental health was spiraling basically out of control. I was never at the point where I was wanted to end myself, but I realized that I wasn't that far off, and like I could see in the future that could be where I end up, which is extremely dark to say, right? But I don't say that like with a depressed attitude or like a negative attitude. I say that matter of factly, like, yeah, my life was kind of nothing really there. I didn't find any meaning or purpose in school, and I had no friends, no social life. So it's like, I don't know where I could have ended up, right? Early on in my lifting journey, I want to take you to a night in the gym. I drive over there, right? I take my pre-workout, which has a ton of caffeine in it, so that feels good. I drink it, get my backpack together, drive out to the gym. It's like a cold winter night. I get there, and I go inside, scan my card, put on my favorite music. There's like the silence of the locker room. Take out my earphones, put on my favorite music, and then walk out into the weight room to perform my lift. That was my therapy. That was my antidepressant. That was my medication. It was just some good fucking music and pushing a lot of weight, pushing myself, working harder than I wanted to, getting myself out of my comfort zone, being uncomfortable, right? Then the lift is finished. I take out my earbuds, put them away, get in my car, drive home. I turn on the shower, and I step inside. And I vividly remember, especially early on, I would literally like cry in the shower, like tears of joy. Does that make any sense? I don't know if you've ever like felt that. I would be like laughing hysterically or like crying tears of joy in the shower. Just like complete like euphoria at the beginning. And I don't think it was because I was actually euphoric, but rather like I was so depressed before then. Like my life I had no prospects, I had no meaning. I was an outcast from all social groups. Even like my friend group, they were all just like bullies to me. They would ignore me, stuff like that. When I had finally found out what real hard work was, what building towards an actual goal was, and hard work for myself, by the way, it wasn't for other people, it was for myself, for my own physique. That was such a boost in mental health that I would be crying with joy in the shower. If you pair that with the fact that I was also taking cold showers right after a workout, which is like a dump of endorphins, which make you feel amazing. It was like a weird, surreal experience. It was almost like a spiritual experience for me, having come straight out of the gym, basically like pushing myself as hard as I possibly could, harder than I wanted to, pushing my body to the limit, and then taking the shower and being like overjoyed, feeling really satisfied with myself for the first time in fucking years. If therapists would just prescribe exercise as opposed to medication, imagine what the state of mental health in this country would be. I'm in America, but I mean all of the West. Imagine the state of people's mental health. I want to kind of explain to you in sort of my bro science way what I think is going on here, okay? I think first of all, biologically, it kind of makes sense, right? We're still kind of like our ancestors are. Really, it wasn't that long ago when we were just like sifting around in tribes, trying to not to get like killed by either wild animals or other human beings. So I think we're still kind of that, right? Our emotional centers are still wired towards the biological man and the biological woman, right? We're wired towards survival instincts. We're wired towards that sort of thing. So when we work hard on something, we're naturally satisfied. I think the reason is because through evolution, the ones that worked the hardest and felt satisfied, that gene mutation tended to survive longer and better. And so now we all just kind of have that gene. We love hard work. It doesn't feel comfortable per se, but we we enjoy hard work. We enjoy stepping outside of our comfort zone. It's extremely satisfying to us, right? We are meant to move, and we are meant to work towards a goal and not just be comfortable and lie around. So that's the biological side of it, right? I also think there's kind of like a mental currency, right? I think there's almost like emotion points on our characters. If you think of this like a life like an RPG, I think we all have kind of like an emotion meter, I guess. You know how in an RPG there's normally something called mana, which is like what you use to cast spells, right? You use mana, it's like your magic power or something like that. I think we actually have emotion points in real life. But here's the thing, emotion points are used for certain tasks, expended for certain tasks, right? If you feel emotionally drained at a party, whatever, that's kind of the same thing I'm talking about. But here's the issue. When you have too many emotion points, it almost has like an overdose effect, right? So in the gym, what I was doing was I was taking my emotions out on the weights. I was taking my depression and my anger out on the weights. I was doing that, and it almost seemed to have like this, I always felt better afterwards. I felt lighter afterwards. It was almost like I had removed that poisonous dosage of emotion points, and I had expended them towards something through hard work, right? I think your emotion points can get too low as well. If you're, constantly doing things that expend emotion points, then obviously you're going to get drained and stuff like that. But I think most of us don't really have that. We don't have a whole lot of like really emotionally taxing work, especially like satisfying work. We don't have a lot of satisfying work nowadays, do we? Outside of like the gym, like what do we have? Business, perhaps, if you're into like entrepreneurship, your diet, I suppose. That's not really emotionally draining, is it? What do you have to take your emotion out on something? Perhaps it's a hobby, like hunting or something like that. I don't know. I can't think of many examples. Maybe you can. I can't. All I can think of is really the gym. Past that, it's like everything else is not draining enough to be satisfying, or like too draining to where it's like, okay, well now I don't have any energy left to do anything else. And in a weird way, after the gym, I feel more energized. I suppose because of the satisfying effect that it has. I feel way more energized after a good gym session. So I think that's something that, you need to think about, perhaps, and a nice analogy for why the gym is good for your mental health. It's like you take out your energy, all your depression, and you put it into the workout. And then once you leave the gym, you leave all of that behind. It's a weird, I know it sounds like so weird. It sounds like total bro science, but that's exactly how I think of it. And then I think as well, like good exercise, a good routine isn't just like mentally beneficial, but it's also physically beneficial for like energy and stuff like that. And that carries over into your mental health, right? Because of course, our bodies, the effect that our environment has on our bodies, our lifestyle has on our bodies, always carries over to mental health every single time. Often mental issues are actually physical issues, and they require physical solutions. I know you might not believe me. If you believe in some weird mental health, like traditional, like institutional bullshit, you're probably not going to believe me. You're like, oh no, what? No. Mental health is separate from physical health. Not really. And if you just improve your physical health, oftentimes your mental health will just improve on its own. Honest to God, working out saved my life and my mental health. It was a meditation of its own, and that's why I honestly think every single person should be exercising. They just should be. I see a lot of people that don't exercise, or they used to and they fell off. And one consistent trait that I notice in almost all of them, 90% of them, is they look like they're wallowing in like apathy, like they're lethargic. Their mental health doesn't seem great. They don't seem like very energetic, smiley people. There are exceptions, of course, but they don't seem like they're full of life. They're lively, I don't want that for myself, and I don't want that for other people. So work out. It's good for your mental health, and I hope that you have the same experience that I had. If you got any value from this video, there's something you can do which is a win-win for both of us, which is to scroll down and click the subscribe button. I win because you get a new subscriber, and you win because anytime I have a new insight, learn something new, try something new, I can make a video and directly give you value. Thank you for watching. Go click the top link in the description. That is my full program. If you're interested in building an aesthetic physique, go to that right now and you can read it and see if it's for you. Bye.